Alright, hello everyone, I'm Autumn Flame, and recently I completed my revisiting of Mass Effect Andromeda. After about 2 years of not playing it from its original release date in 2017, I decided to give the game another go after the patches that have been happened and a little bit of time away from the game and the preconceptions that I had when I first started playing. I have to say that the game was a little better than I remembered, and I did enjoy it a little bit more than I thought I would. Still not as good as the original trilogy, but as its own game in its own right, I did enjoy it, and I think that is it important to remember that Mass Effect Andromeda should be seen as its own game rather than a continuation of the Mass Effect series. If you'd played Dragon Age Inquisition, you'd notice that the map design and certain animations are very similar, having very large hub worlds with a lot to do and a lot of small quests and targets around there remind me an incredible amount of that, where a direct sequel to Mass Effect 3 would suffer because of this, but Andromeda being a game about exploration and discovery, it seemed to work a little bit better with having vast open areas to explore and seeing more of a planet. But in being said with that, the traveling around Mass Effect 1, especially in the Mako at times, was incredibly boring, and after driving around for a few times in those large planets, at first was wow, this is really cool. Later it became very, oh great, this planet again and all these crappy hills. I did feel a little bit about that with Eos and Eladin at times, with vast amounts of land that we really didn't need to spend so much time driving around. I'd say the greatest thing I found that Mass Effect Andromeda suffers from is the game nears greatness. It had a lot of potential, and a lot of times you could see the potential for greatness there, but the game fell flat. And I think a lot of that worked around with the Mass Effect A team being busy building with Anthem, while the C team was busy working on this, and they lacked the writing and the production and the creative integrity to turn those good moments into great moments and the great moments into incredible moments that we've seen throughout the Mass Effect franchise. And we seem to have a lack of urgency with dealing with the Archon, where if you think about between Mass Effect 1 to 2, we thought, oh wait, we've got all this stuff to do, there's an escalation of the threat, we know there's a lot more out there, and you felt pumped for what's coming next. In 2 to 3, especially seeing the Reapers entering their Milky Way, we were like, oh wait, here we go, this is getting real, everything is pumped up another notch. While Andromeda felt very, we had an overarching plot of the Archon, it never really felt urgent or threatening with what's going to happen. We felt bad for the Angara and things that we discovered about them, but in terms of the initiative, the Archon really wasn't a danger at all. Another sequence I found to be to example with this is when we land on Meridian and in the Nomad and we're chasing down the Archon. While visually is a very nice scene and they attempted to make it feel urgent and danger, there really is no danger or urgency in what we're doing. It's just a nice leisurely drive through the countryside looking at things while the dialogue tries to instill panic and fear and threat. I did appreciate the all the allies coming together to help out and bringing a sense of community, but the sense of danger and desperation just was not there. I did find that the combat pacing at times is also a little off. The audio would describe a hectic battle, danger, and things like that, especially on the Asari arc. But in reality, I had sufficient weaponry and armor that it never really was that much of an issue, and I never felt threatened in that regard. Some battles on Meridian, I'd start to felt that and get, okay, things are getting real now. We're starting to get pushed hard, getting a little bit overwhelmed, and I started to feel that, okay, things are happening. And I would have liked more of that where you felt that it's a danger to face this enemy, such as in the first Mass Effect when you first start facing heavier Krogan, and they are a significant threat, especially on the Liara's recruitment mission, and you've got low-level weapons on a first playthrough. The Krogan are not the easiest thing to take down. A good example of this from earlier games would be Mass Effect 2 on the Arrival DLC, when you're fighting to survive on your own against many waves of enemies. You've got a lot of enemies, a lot of skill ranges in those enemies, a lot of tactical changes, and you're getting overwhelmed consistently. And if you wish to pass that and not hit the semi-failure state, you've got to push harder, faster, and stronger. But all of that was lacking with Andromeda. A lot of the issue I found was just the random nature of combat with just random groups of enemies sit around. You're driving around Vold, here's another group of random kit. But there was never any structure or logic to a fight, and even when we were in a structured environment, it just felt like another wave, another wave, another wave. Not, okay, here's a composition, here them using tactics, and we're trying to get anywhere. You just get spammed with enemies that were very unintelligent and easy to take down. Let's see, next point. There are many moments with the companions that I felt had the potential for the emotion and connection that we felt with characters such as Liara, Garrus, Tali. Who else did we feel connection with? I'm having a bit of a brain fart. I know definitely not Jacob. He was very bland. I found Miranda bland from Mass Effect 2. But there was times where I felt there was a tiny bit of spark there where you're like, okay, I can see those moments of greatness coming through in character design, but others were completely flat and boring, meaning that I had no interest in them whatsoever. Example with Liam, he was just a very flat character, no real personality to him other than being a hothead, and it wasn't even really a interesting hothead. It was just, I'm impatient, I want to get stuff done, bend the rules a little bit, and it always came to bite him in the butt, and it didn't never really seem to grow on me as a character. Cora being a whiny sub-leader and complaining about no one understood my biotics seemed very uninteresting, and just I can't really describe it at this moment. Where you, for example, Caden and Jack suffered a lot of things with Caden being one of the first biotics and suffering a brutal training regimen. Jack being experimented on in order to do that. You felt bad for them. There was empathy and emotion there. While Cora was just like, poor me, the preppy girl that got a $40,000 car instead of an $80,000 car. And that was about the emotional range of her issues with, oh, poor me, poor me. Jarl, on the other hand, was very interesting with his alien perspective, their views on reincarnation, and then learning about who the Angara are, their relationship with the Ket, what the Ket have done to them, and what they have become as a people under their own leadership from the Ket and the Jardan, led to an incredibly interesting character and race, and definitely added that extra element that we needed that Mass Effect 1 brought in with all the new races, with learning about who are the Asari, who are the Turians, who are the Krogan, who are the Solarians. Vetra was a bit of a trickier one for me. While I liked her character, I liked her relationship with her sister, we never really got to see her smuggler role really played upon that much. It was something in the background that they talked about with the character, but we never really got to see that be a key part of a character, analogous to Garrus becoming Archangel, with Liara being a researcher and using that throughout Mass Effect 1 to explain parts of the subplot. It was just, they could have done a lot more with her, but they didn't. And then we have, well, Miss Drac. Drac was a decent Krogan. He was very old. He's nearing his end of his lifespan. He'd been injured a lot in the past, was missing multiple organs, parts of his body. He's starting to shut down, but he'd suffered great personal tragedy and loss because of those injuries. He was depressed, near suicidal, lost the will to go on until a shaman gave him a baby, and he decided that he needed to be strong for her and give her a life, which brought about his redemption, getting over his issues in order to help her live and provide her a better future, which for me was an incredibly good insight within Krogan culture of not just being a warlording, brutal clan, which really raised him up as one of my favourite characters. The last character, and probably my favourite other than Drac, being Peebee. While I know some people found her annoying with her personality, I found her sense of adventurism and passion and enthusiasm for finding the unknown, getting out there and doing, and not being a stale, long-term mindset Asari, was very refreshing, and she just wanted to get out there and explore and just be her own person. In that, for companions, I would rate Peebee, Drac, and Jarl as my top three, Vetra and Cora as the mid tier, and Liam as the bottom tier, since I never took him anywhere but his required missions because he is just a boring, flat character and didn't really add anything into what I wanted to experience. I think if we could get some quality control brought into the game, similar to the composition of Lair of the Shadowbroker and the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect 3, if we had that standard of writing, level design, control, and quality, Mass Effect Andromeda would definitely have been the game that it should have been. But because of the C team taking over, as I said, we ended up with a slightly lackluster game that hints at what it could have been, but failed due to the lack of leadership and design and skill in that regard. Improvements that I think should have been made to help with this, I'm ignoring all graphical and animation errors, since that can be addressed a bit easier than the other parts that can be patched and fixed up with user experience. But I really think that most of the companions really do need improvements with their backstory, acting, and reason to care and empathize about them. Other than really Drac, Jarl, and Peebee, I found, and very limited extent Vetra, I found no reason to really care about Liam or Cora, both of them being very bland, uninteresting characters that really had nothing to them and reason to care about them. I would have liked to see the planets a little bit fleshed out in some regards, because with the size of Eos and Aladdin, with the amount of empty deserts on those planets, some of that resource could have gone to creating 2 or 3 smaller planets, maybe the size of Havarl, and we could have had a range of different climates and mission types, enemies, and things that we could have done, rather than spending quite a few hours just driving over empty expanse with no real things other than just it's pretty to look at. I would have liked to see a little bit more come out of the politics and logistics of your choices, having to worry about food, water, energy management, things like that, trying to maintain supply lines and control, and ensuring that supplies are coming in, maybe some sort of meter that will check how much water and food and things and issues will crop up that you'll need to deal with to help supply more water and food, and maybe riots, or there be political implications of who to help first in a time of crisis. That align with a little bit more combat cleaning up, with a little bit more scripting in the fights to make them a little bit more structured and feel like their fights are more than just random groups of enemies around the place, would give us a bit more of a feel of danger and urgency and a more thought out fight. That being said, to the future of the Mass Effect Andromeda games, I would really love to see another 2 games to flesh out the series. I think that more games would be the excellent number, with another game to build up supplies, resources, allies, and a third to end the series off with massive battle fighting the kit. I think because we have Meridian already, that the need to terraform new planets, or at least spending time doing that, basically becomes redundant, outside of needing to give the Quarians and the Alcor and the other races that came on the final arc, give them a home that can be simply taken care of screen. We don't really need to be activating vaults and doing puzzles at this point of the game. I think we would move more into a diplomacy and exploration role, finding new races, new allies, and things to do in the outside of the Helios cluster, since basically the Helios cluster is taking care of itself at this point. I'd like to see conflicts between the new races that we see, maybe races that are at war with each other, trying to work out whether we can maintain peace between them, if we have to choose between one or the other, each side having pros and cons of why we should pick one or not the other, and larger political implications of how the rest of Andromeda sees the initiative. Essentially, to one point, building up what was Mass Effect 3's first 3 quarters of the game, building up allies and supplies and logistics in order to further the war against the Ket at a later stage. While Phase 3 would be all about bringing those sources to bear and then fighting the Ket on a large scale with all the races and basically ending up the series in essentially a decent state. Thinking about where BioWare would originally want to take this series, I speculated that their initial approach would be that the Ket would be created, their sterility and why they exalt people would either be an accident due to genetic adaptation they tried to do, maybe a punishment by another race and it was a weapon against them and it was their only option to continue, or maybe it was by design and they chose to do it to themselves. But exaltation and changing other races to become them as their only means of procreation. But I think that you'd find the true Ket would only have this happen by choice. It would never be a forced option, while the Archon went off on his own, wanted to build up his own army of fanatical loyalists that would do what he says when he says and do it by force so he could gain more political control within the Ket Empire. And I think the key choices that will come down to that at the end of it would be, do you allow the Ket to live in a peaceful situation and exalt the willing that choose to become exalted and part of the Ket Empire? Or do we deny them and destroy them root and branch, wiping them out completely, with either choice having ramifications of allowing the Ket to continue, combining all the races essentially into one over time, or at least some sort of understanding with the Ket and the other races, or would the Ket then become like the Archon and splinter cell groups that always seek to forcibly exalt people? On the other hand, wiping them out completely, the initiative could be seen as bullies, and the other races fear that they might be next if they don't toe the line, or it could be seen as a necessary evil, and it was for the betterment of everybody, and now races can continue on their own without the overthreat of Ket exaltation. Still, I would like to see multiple endings to the series depending on your choices. It doesn't just have to be that black or white, but I'd like to see an end result that would be better than the Mass Effect 3's 1, 2, or 3 choice, where you'd have long-ranging implications of all your choices would create a ending for you that you would feel happy with. Overall, I really hope that the series continues. I can see a lot of promise in it, and I really want it to be able to achieve the mastery that it should have been and that it could be. There are a lot of places to see within Andromeda and beyond, and I really hope that BioWare can get their act together and make the game that it should have been, that it should be, and we will get the experiences that we've been waiting for, and BioWare return back to the company that they used to be. Hope you've enjoyed this slight review and discussion about Mass Effect Andromeda. Links below, I'll have my playthrough of the Andromeda series. I'll be looking at doing new games soon. If you would like to see me play Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 through and discuss about those, I'd be more than happy. If there are other games in a similar genre or something you'd like to see played, I can certainly take that under advisement and get other games played as well. Everyone have a good morning, evening, afternoon, or night, depending on where you're in the world, and I shall see you all on again soon.